Would you, Stephen, be interested in Bob Myers if he was half in LA, half here, or 70-30, like if he split time but still wanted to devote some of his services here?
Nope. Not at all.
Obviously, yesterday we did a whole show based around Mark Stein reporting in his Substack that the Suns have, quote, strong interest in Bob Myers, former Warriors executive, now ESPN analyst. And then there were some conflicting reports that went out throughout the day. Gerald will have some things to say to clear stuff up on PHNX Suns end. But before that, Gerald, let's kind of lay out how we got here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started with a Mark Stein report that there was a strong interest in Bob Myers on the Suns end. And then we got Dwayne Rankin today, or was it yesterday, today, also reporting Phoenix Suns owner Matt Ishbia has been pushing hard to land former Warriors GM Bob Myers, sources say. Gambo was asked about it, John Gambadoro, who is obviously very locked in as well. And he basically shot those down. He said, "You guys worked me too hard." No, not true in regards to
Classic
that
Gambo
interest there. So we've got some conflicting reports. We've got Mark Stein and Dwayne Rankin on one side. We've got Gambo on the other side saying there's no interest. I can clear up a little bit of that. According to a source that I spoke with, Bob Myers and a few other reputable GMs are interested in a potential job with the Suns in the front office. Contrary to popular belief and the way it feels for the fan base after this team failed to meet expectations, just went through the most disappointing season in franchise history, this is still an attractive job to outside candidates. Now, the question is, will the two sides be able to come to an agreement? Because that's something different entirely. And how hard would the Suns actually pursue him? Obviously, Myers is based out of LA. He's a big family guy. His family is in LA. So would he be willing to uproot and come to Phoenix and devote, 100% of his time to being here in Phoenix, being boots on the ground and doing the job the way that the Suns would probably want him to do it? Or would Phoenix be comfortable with him kind of doing like a 70-30 split type of thing where he's not in Phoenix all the time? I don't know that would be the case. I think you heard Matt Ishbia at exit interviews talk a lot about establishing an identity. And it's hard to envision them going with a candidate like that if he's not going to be here all the time. That's just kind of me speculating. But those are the questions that could determine whether a Suns Bob Myers union comes to fruition. I wouldn't be surprised if the Suns do go in a different direction, maybe with a lesser known up and coming exec who kind of aligns with their vision for the future as they try to establish an identity like we talked about. But there is interest on Myers' end of things for sure. And as far as the James Jones of it all, because obviously we're talking about outside candidates, James Jones is still the GM, but as we've been reporting here and been talking about on the show, his contract expires, and it's feeling, based on what I've heard from a few sources behind the scenes, it's feeling more likely that he is either going to be allowed to walk once his contract expires, or he's going to be moved into more of an advisory role. Josh Bartelstein, he is still the CEO, but he's probably going to be focused more on the business aspect as opposed to the basketball side of things with James Jones, which would make sense if the Suns do bring in a new GM. So nothing is set in stone yet. They're still making these decisions. They've got time, but for the time being, they're going to be focused on making these front office changes as they see fit before they move on to hire a new coach, which also makes sense because a lot of the candidates are assistants that are currently on teams that are in the playoffs.
How do you feel about all that? Would you, Stephen, be interested in Bob Myers if he was half in LA, half here, or 70-30, like if he split time but still wanted to devote some of his services here?
Nope. Not at all. Because this is not even disrespect to him, but you can't say that you want this new tone to be set and, things to align with that. And then one of the decision makers, someone that's going to be held very highly in regard, and how you're going to be leaning on him for his services, to not be boots on ground and putting in that same type of sweat equity in respect to his position on a daily basis with everybody else. You can't get that portion of it if someone's 7 toes in and 3 toes out.
What does that even look like?
it looks like someone that's supposed to be in the front office role that's in a different city than everybody else.
Yeah.
Looks like some frog feet that won't
I'm about
be
to say.
Phoenix.
I don't know if I read probably Shaq feet.
Yeah.
So that gets everybody. Okay.
Wow.
I did warn everybody that I was on one before.
You didn't warn the chat though.
I did not warn the chat. If you are a PHNX Sun Devils listener, you know I'm on one. Chris says, should we expect Ishbia to also be located in Phoenix? I think that's a little bit different because he's not making day-to-day decisions when it comes to the actual basketball side of things. He's taking more of a big picture perspective, and he does need to run his other business in order for the Suns to be able to spend money. Ted says LA is an hour commute from Phoenix, but
I'm about to say, I'm new out here. Ain't that 5.5?
a drive. Private jet,
Yeah,
probably
different.
like 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Yeah, so it's a little different when you have a...
I was about to say, Chicago to Milwaukee is an hour and a half. This ain't the same distance as driving from LA to Phoenix, but that's me speaking.
And I said this yesterday because I also didn't want Bob Myers if Bob Myers wasn't getting the keys to the place where, you can come in, but you're splitting duties 50-50 with James Jones or with another candidate or whatever that is. I don't want that. But I wonder if there would be a consideration for him to maybe be in like a lesser role, maybe a consultant role, if the Suns do go with a smaller name, lesser known GM, and maybe in a non-public setting, Bob Myers becomes like an advisor or something. He still gets to spend time doing ESPN analyst work, living out of LA, being with his family, but having some sort of fingerprints on this organization, since it seems like there is some mutual interest between the two. Maybe it doesn't happen, and that's why Gambo felt comfortable reporting that. Obviously, we're not going to know until more plays out. Do we have any other thoughts on Bob Myers in general before we start getting to tiering reasons why the Suns are or maybe are not a top-tier destination in the NBA for players?
Yeah, just that I think Bob Myers, obviously his track record, what he was able to achieve with the Warriors is outstanding, and it's the kind of thing that you would want in Phoenix. But I do also think that, to Stephen's point, if he's not going to be here full time, if he can't devote, the full resources, time, and attention to turning this thing around, then maybe you are better off going in a different direction with someone who aligns and believes in your vision rather than, bringing in their own set of beliefs and their own vision and what worked for them in the past. Because like we've touched on, Bob Myers has made some amazing moves. He has also had some misfires, just like every GM in the league pretty much. So I think for the Suns, if you do go in a different direction, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you failed. I do think Bob Myers has interest in here. The question is, how much will the Suns pursue him? And to your point, like there does, based on everything that I've heard, there does seem to be a good relationship between those two sides. So even if he doesn't get hired full-time as the GM, maybe there is some sort of advisory role or something like that. I don't know, but there does seem to be an interest from Bob Myers in coming here, which is good news because that's the most high-profile name on the market. And if someone like that wants to come to Phoenix, maybe this job opening or this organization is not as far gone as it feels like when you miss the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I was going to get to. If he's interested in any capacity, then that means that no one should feel above it because he's been as good as it gets for the last 12 years or so, even though he's been removed for about 3 seasons now. So that should bode well for the Suns, and that sets the tone for the conversations that we'll be having on today's show. So as I lob it off the backboard again,